The following chapter contains description of murder and violence. Journey to the West, an audio drama series. The Addendum. Part 1. We spoke of Chang'an, the great city located at Shanxi, also the place where many generations of emperors and kings call their capital. Ever since the dynasties of Zhou, Qin, and Han, flowers have covered the land like brocade as 8 rivers flowed around the city. What a splendid metropolis indeed! At the time, Emperor Taizong of Great Tang was on the throne. The name of his reign was Zhenguan. During the 13th year of his reign, the nation was at peace. Tributes arrived from all directions, and everywhere people called themselves his subjects. One day, Emperor Taizong arrived at the throne gathering all the civil and military officials. After all the formalities, Wei Zheng, who served as Chengxiang, the equivalent of Prime Minister, walked out from the ranks and reported. Now the nation is at peace, and every land is tranquil. There has been an abundance of military officials, but a shortage of civil ones. Your humble subject would like to follow the ancient custom and open up the examination halls in order to recruit the virtuous and promote the talented. I humbly beg for your imperial attention. Taizong said, The virtuous minister has a good point. And so they released a summons on recruiting talents and distributed it across the land. People of every city and town, down to the smallest places, regardless of whether you were a soldier or civilian, could qualify. As long as you were a learned man with ambition and knowledge, you were encouraged to attend the examination in Chang'an, and those who aced would be appointed official titles. The summons reached Haizhou, where in the town of Hongnong was a manor named Juxianzhuang, or the Talent Assembling Manor. In the manor lived a man whose last name was Chen, and his first name E, meaning the calyx of a flower. His courtesy name was Guangrui, with Guang meaning light, and Rui meaning the stamen of a flower. In practice, courtesy names were usually used by others, and first names by oneself. Chen Guangrui was in town one day and saw the summons. He immediately returned home and told his mother, Madame Zhang, The town ruler has released a summons about holding an examination to recruit the talented. Your child would like to take the exam. Should I be rewarded with a post or two, our family will be honored. This has been my aspiration. I've come to inform you, mother, about leaving. Madame Zhang said, My son, when you attend the exam, you shall be very careful on your journey. Once you have received an appointment, do return as soon as possible. Guangrui thereby ordered a servant boy to pack his belongings and left his mother for the journey on the same day. In less than one day, he arrived at Chang'an, just in time for the examination halls to open. Guangrui then entered the exam with other attendees. After 3 sessions of exams taking place in the royal court, he was awarded Zhuangyuan, title for first place, which the Tang Emperor certified with his very own imperial brush. He was also awarded to ride on a horse and parade on the street for 3 straight days. The parade, coincidentally, passed by the gate of Yin Kai-shan, who also served as prime minister. His daughter Wenjiao, meaning warm loveliness, also nicknamed Man Tang Jiao, meaning a hall full of loveliness, was yet to be married. And so a high tower was set up and festooned, where she would throw down an embroidered ball to select a husband. The custom went that whoever was hit by the ball would be the groom. It just so happened that Chen Guangrui was passing below the tower. The lady saw that Guangrui had an extraordinary appearance, and he was also the newly announced Zhuangyuan. Her heart fluttered with delight as she threw the embroidered ball from the festooned tower, hitting Guangrui's dark gauze hat. Immediately music played as scores of maids came down the tower to take hold of Guangrui's horse, The 状元 was taken into the Prime Minister's residence, where both the Prime Minister and his wife arrived at the main hall. A master of ceremony was called in, and that was how the lady and Guang Rui kowtowed to heaven and earth. After husband and wife bow to each other, they both pay respect to the lady's father and mother as well. The Prime Minister arranged a banquet for the guests to enjoy for the night. The newlyweds, on the other hand, held hands and entered the bride's room together. The next morning, Emperor Taizong asked, "What position should be appointed to the newly certified 状元 Chen Guangrui?" Wei Zheng again reported, "Your subject has gone through the list and found that only Jiangzhou has a vacancy. May your Majesty give him this office." Taizong therefore appointed Guang Rui to be the prefect of Jiangzhou. He was to immediately pack up and set out, as not a day shall be delayed. Guang Rui thanked the throne and returned home to inform his wife. After thanking his in-laws, he left for Jiangzhou with the lady. They departed from Chang'an during late spring, with soft breeze caressing the willow's green and a fine shower dotting the flowers red. Guang Rui's home was on the way, so he visited his mother, Madame Zhang, with his wife. Madame Zhang said, "Congratulations to my dear son, and you came back married too." Guang Rui detailed everything that took place in Chang'an, telling his mother, "Your child has been appointed prefect of Jiangzhou. That's why I came straight to pick you up, mother, so you can go with us." Madame Zhang was overjoyed and packed up to join them. After several days on the journey, they arrived at Wanhua Dian, or the 10,000 Blossom Market, and stayed at a hostel run by a man named Liu Xiao'er. Madame Zhang wasn't feeling so well and told Guang Rui, "Let's rest up in the hostel for a couple of days before resuming the trip." The next morning, they saw someone selling a golden carp outside the hostel door. Guang Rui bought the fish with a string of coins and planned to cook it for his mother. But then, he saw the fish vigorously blinking its eyes at him. Guang Rui said, "How strange. I heard that if a fish or snake could blink its eyes, it must be no ordinary creature." So he asked the fisherman, "Where did you catch this fish?" The fisherman answered, 15 li from where we are from Hongjiang, or the Hong River." Guang Rui then took the fish there and released it back into the Hong River. He returned to the hostel and told his mother what happened. Madame Zhang said, "My dear son, it's a good thing that you freed a living creature." Guang Rui then said, "It's been 3 days since we've stayed here. We have to leave tomorrow." Madame Zhang said, "I'm still not feeling quite right. It's going to get hotter on the trip. I fear I'll get even more sick. You can rent a room for me to stay here and leave me with some allowance. The 2 of you shall proceed to the new post. You can pick me up when it's cooler in autumn." Guang Rui discussed the matter with his wife and agreed to the arrangement. And so they rented a room and left. The journey was unspeakably harsh as they traveled by day and rested by night. The next thing they knew, they were at the crossing point by the Hong River. 2 boatmen, Liu Hong and Li Biao, greeted them by the shore on their boat. It must have been due to Guang Rui's past life that he was bound for disaster, because it was now that he was pushed straight into his fated enemies. After ordering the servant boy to load their luggage onto the boat, Guang Rui went on board together with his wife. Liu Hong opened his eyes wide and saw what a beauty Lady Yin was. Her face was like a full moon, and her eyes glittered like clear autumnal water. With a small mouth like cherry and a slim waist like green willow, she indeed had an appearance that could sink fish and make wild geese fall from the sky, from which the moon would hide and flowers would shy away. Liu Hong stirred up his cruel intents and plotted with Li Biao. They punted the boat to an isolated area and waited until the quiet of midnight. First, they murdered the servant boy. Then, they beat Guangrui to death and pushed his body into the water. The lady saw her husband being killed and was about to throw herself into the river too, but Liu Hong rushed to hold her, saying, "Do what I say and everything will be fine, or else I will cut you into halves." The lady had no choice but submit to Liu Hong for the time being. That bastard took the boat to the southern shore and left it to Li Biao's care. He then put on Guangrui's clothes and took his credentials to head for the Jiangzhou office. We speak of the servant boy that Liu Hong killed. His body flowed away with the currents. Chen Guangrui's body, however, sank to the bottom of the water and stopped moving. A Yecha in charge of patrolling the Hong River estuary spotted him and dashed back to the Dragon Palace to make a report. It just so happened that the Dragon King was holding a court session. The Yecha reported, "Right now at the Hong River estuary, some unknown person beat a young scholar to death and sank his body to the bottom of the water." The Dragon King ordered the body be brought inside and placed right in front of him. After observing carefully, he said, "This man saved my life. How did he get murdered? As the saying goes, return kindness with kindness. I must save his life today to repay his kindness from before." He then wrote an official dispatch and had a Yecha deliver it straight to the city guardian and tutelary of soil of Hongzhou. The goal was to take back the scholar's soul so his life could be saved. The city guardian and tutelary of soil thereby ordered the ghost servants to hand over Chen Guangrui's soul to the Yecha. The Yecha returned to the Crystal Palace and reported back to the Dragon King, who then placed the scholar's soul on the dead body. And all of a sudden, the soul returned and the man was back to life. The Dragon King asked, "Young scholar, what is your name? Where are you from? Why were you beaten to death?" Guangrui bowed to greet him, saying, "In answer to your questions, the respected dragon, this humble man is named Chen E, with Guangrui being my courtesy name. I came from the town of Hongnong in Haizhou. I was lucky to become the newly certified Zhuangyuan and appointed the prefect of Jiangzhou. I was heading there with my wife to receive the new post when we arrived by the river and went aboard a boat. Who could have thought that the boatman named Liu Hong would lust after my wife? He beat me to death and threw away my body. I beg you, great king, to save me. I shall never forget your favor." The Dragon King heard this and said, "I see. Good sir, I am that golden carp you released before. You are my benefactor. Now that you are in trouble, I shall give you a hand." He then put Guangrui's corpse aside and placed a Ding Yan Zhu, or a face-preserving pearl, in his mouth. That way, his body would not deteriorate, so he would be prepared for revenge in the future. The Dragon King said, "You can be a commander in my river residence for the time being." Guangrui kowtowed in thanks, and the Dragon King arranged a banquet to welcome him. We will speak no more of that. We instead return to Lady Yin, who so resented this bastard named Liu that she would happily eat his flesh and sleep on his skin. However, she was already pregnant and had no idea if the child would be a boy or a girl. There was nothing else she could do but force herself to submit to his ways for the time being and figure out what to do later. Before long, they have arrived at Jiangzhou and were welcomed by the governmental clerks with a banquet. Liu Hong acted as if he was Chen Guangrui and fooled everyone there. He took up the position of prefect without trouble. Time flew by, and one day Liu Hong was sent far away for official matters. The lady was at their residence, thinking of her real husband. Just as she was sighing in the floral pavilion, she felt tired, as a surge of pain came from her stomach, knocking her unconscious on the ground. Without realizing, she had given birth to a son. and next to her ears she heard someone instructing. 满堂娇, listen to my instructions. I am the officer of the South Pole Star. I am here by the religious edict of Guanshi Bodhisattva to give you the sun. He will be widely known in the future and is certainly no ordinary individual. Should that criminal Liu return, he is bound to hurt this boy. You shall protect him with all your heart. Your husband has been rescued by the Dragon King. In the future, husband and wife will meet again, son and mother will reunite, and there will be the day when you can have your revenge. Remember my words, and wake up now. When he was done talking, the man was gone. The lady woke up and could still recall everything she heard. She held her son, but had no idea what she could do. Suddenly, Liu Hong came back. He saw the child and was about to drown him to death when the lady implored, It's getting late now. Let's throw him into the river tomorrow. Fortunately, Liu Hong was sent away again the next morning for official matters. The lady therefore could keep the son with her in secret and breastfeed him for a month. She then thought to herself, if that bastard returns this time, this boy's life would be over. I shall abandon him into the river as soon as possible and let him be. Should high heaven pity him, someone will adopt this boy. If we meet again one day, how will I recognize him? She then bit her finger open and wrote a letter in blood, detailing the names of the child's parents, his origins and ordeals. Afterwards, she bit off the boy's little toe on the left foot as identification. Wrapping the boy in her own inner blouse, she took him out of the official residence. Luckily, the river was not far from the building. The lady came near the water and, heartbroken, burst into tears. Just as she was about to abandon the child, she suddenly spotted a wooden plank floating from the side of the river bank. She was thrilled, thinking, could it be that heaven is destined to save this child? She immediately prayed to the skies above and placed the boy on the plank. She fastened him secure with some ribbon and tied the blood letter to his chest. With a push, the plank flowed onto the river, going whichever way it pleased. The lady wailed in sorrow as she returned to the residence. We will speak no more of that. We turned instead to the child, who was moving all the way down the current on the wooden plank, stopping only at the foot of Jinshan Si, or Golden Hill Temple. The elder of the temple was named Monk Fa Ming. Fa means law, and Ming means brightness. He had been awakened by the way and mastered the miraculous spell of birthless life. He was meditating that day when suddenly he heard a child crying. His heart was moved, sending him running down the river bank, where he found a child sleeping on a wooden plank. The elder said, What luck, what luck! I wonder which family abandoned this child. As a man who is out of the family, compassion is our core principle. Saving one life brings more merit than building a pagoda. He then picked the boy up and found the blood letter in his possession. That was how Fa Ming learned about the child's origins. He gave the boy a baby name called Jiang Liu. Jiang means river, and Liu means flow. He entrusted the child to caretakers and kept the blood letters safely hidden. Time flew by, and without realizing, the boy turned 18. The elder had his hair shaven clean for cultivation and gave him the religious name of Xuanzang. After having his head touched and receiving the commandments, Xuanzang put all his heart and mind into cultivating for the way. One day in late spring, the crowd gathered under the shade of a pine tree as they discussed sutra and all that was mysterious and brilliant. A monk who hasn't cut off wine and meat, a non-practicing monk in other words, was outwitted by Xuanzang, so he lashed out, saying, You mixed blood who hasn't got parents. I am your senior. I have consumed as much salt as you have rice. What don't I know? You sinful beast who doesn't even know your name and can't even recognize your own father and mother. What business do you have here?" Having been insulted by such language, Xuanzang went into the temple and prostrated before his master. In tears, he asked, "When one is born in this world, we're nurtured by the power of yin and yang to build up the strengths of the 5 phases. We are all born and raised by a father and mother. How could there be a person who is alive but has no parents?" Imploring in great sorrow, he asked for the name of his parents. The elder answered, "If you are determined to find your parents, you can come with me to my room." Xuanzang thereby followed his master and arrived at the elder's room. Above layers of roof beams, the elder recovered a small box. He opened it up and took out a piece of blood letter and a blouse before handing them to Xuanzang. Xuanzang unfolded the blood letter, and that was how he first learned of the names of his parents, along with all the injustices they had suffered. When done reading, he couldn't help but wail on the floor, saying, "How could I call myself human if I cannot avenge my parents? For 18 years I knew nothing about my birth parents. It wasn't until now that I learned I still have a mother. If it weren't for you, Master, to raise me to adulthood, how could I even live till this day? Please allow your disciple to find his mother. After that, I shall return with a heart full of gratitude and respect, and rebuild the temple to repay your deep favor." His master said, "If you would like to find your mother, you shall bring this blood letter and blouse along with you. Go as a mendicant and straight to the prefect residence of Jiangzhou, where you will reunite with your mother."